Hello, everyone. Welcome to Feminist Question Time, brought to you by Women's Declaration International, the leading global organization defending women's sex-based rights against the threats posed by gender identity ideology. There is more information on the website, womensdeclaration.com, where you will find our declaration on women's sex-based rights, which has been signed by 37,412 people from 160 countries. And it is also supported by 518 organizations. We have many volunteer activists, including country contacts from every continent, engaged in defending women's rights. Please join us. You can also become a member of WDI to help our work by volunteering or donating. You can get in touch with us at info@womensdeclaration.com or via your country contact on the website. You can find that at the section Country Info at our website, Women's Declaration International. And now I'm going to introduce our today's speakers. We will have Suzanne Dalio from the United States. We will have María Binetti from Argentina. And we will have also Dr. Suzanne Vierling from the United States. And Suzanne is our first speaker. She's going to explain how we are using Twitter as a form of activism. Suzanne Dalio is a WDI volunteer since 2022, and she has been the Twitter on our WDI account since last year. When she's not tweeting, she practices Zen, which I guess is a very much needed activism also these days.
Okay, so yes, I've been doing Twitter. It's or X, I'm still calling it Twitter. It's a very interesting space. And I wanted to talk about really from why we use it and how we use it, or rather why I use it and how I use it for WDI. I see it primarily as a tool for, by and large, for educating, informing, for community building, and also for amplifying our followers and our message and our collective message. So this is a slide I have posted on it's pasted to our account. And it doesn't show it yet. It doesn't show it, but we're at 12,900 followers. So it keeps increasing little by little, day by day, week by week, which is really exciting. And here you can see the articles. I'm not going to explain. I have quite a few slides. I'm not going to talk each one of them because I think they're easier to understand if you just read them yourselves. So let me start with one of the campaigns that many of you are familiar with. So we come up with campaigns now and then, and this one was created by Amy Mangano, who creates these posters. Why did you sign the declaration? And we've had over 50 women and men contribute. So if you want to contribute, let us know, and we will put your testimony, statement, and or picture up there to contribute. We also advertise. We have merchandise, as Amparo said, our book. I post that regularly. Sometimes I post the other things we have for sale, t-shirts and mugs and whatnot, but usually not so much. And this was a campaign that kind of came, most of the campaigns I do come about. And what I mean is I'm in Twitter and I see what's going on. And then I try to bring it back to the declaration, because we're trying to always tell people about the declaration and get signatories. And so I went through, as I was tweeting, I saw opportunities to tweet about each article, not all of them, but almost all of them. And I also noticed that when I put some kind of commentary on it, what I think is more personalizing it, in the sense that it's coming from somebody, a person, not some automated idea or just retweeting, I get more responses. I get more what they call engagement. So this was Article 1. This was a tweet on Article 3. This also was amplifying and communicating one of our other speakers, Mary Lou Singleton. We have a video of her that will be presenting sometime soon. And that was also a WDI USA event. And this one I found really funny, great. This Article 4, freedom of speech and expression, there was a woman who just had a rant in her automobile about, hear me out, hear me out. She basically wanted to say, look, I'm kind of a tomboy. This is the way I look, you know, stop putting it all in all of these weird categories. It was a great little video I thought was wonderful. To demonstrate Article 4. Article 6, political participation. Kara had and put this post up there, and sometimes I get a little snarky, and I try to not be too snarky. Choosing my words, trying to choose my words intelligently. And so I just reposted this about a particular American organization that is kind of feminist. Trans woman was trending, and most of the time when it's trending on our Twitter feed, it's not like trans women are wonderful. And so I took opportunity to then just put it into the context of the Save Women's Sports hashtag that we're often repeating, often tweeting. Article 8, this was piggybacking on on a campaign at the end of November, the beginning of December, the Violence Against Women Day, and a campaign, I think, spearheaded by Sex Matters. And they had a whole campaign that they asked us to just participate in, and so we did that. There were tags that they had set up for us, and I took those and then connected it with our Article 8. And then Article 9, this one got a lot of views and actually quite a lot of retweets and things. I don't know why some of them, I'm not a social media expert. I don't know why some of them get a lot of engagement. And in the meantime, this infographic is sort of outdated. I think they have another euphemism for, you know, the indoctrination of young children. I think it might have been my little point that I made was I wrote, this infographic is effectively a crime against humanity, and lots of people responded to that. That really provoked responses. And then this one was, again, a part of the campaign from Sex Matters at the end of November and December, and trying to put, you know, other, you know, just messaging constantly. Oops, where's my notes? Uh-oh, hold on, sorry. My notes went blank. And here's another one. I don't get very many replies at all. I usually get retweets and just likes. And this woman said 500 years. I thought that was kind of cute. I like, yeah, it's actually probably been longer, but yeah, it's been 500 years. Okay, and then we have a lot of really great followers that post wonderful things, and Linda Blade is one of them, and I like to amplify their voices. Some of the women I retweet are retweeting men's tweets. I've decided to not tweet any men directly, retweet men directly. I will, though, retweet women who are retweeting them. We are a women's organization run by women, for women, and appreciating the men. But as I'm noticing, more and more of them are coming on board and being vocal, and yeah, we don't need to amplify them any more than they already are amplified just by being men. I also like to make sure that we give a voice to our international, linguistically international collaborators. And Rona, she's been on many times and says some great stuff. She's doing great work. She's in Germany. It's always a little dicey with the translations. My Spanish isn't really good. But I usually pull it off using, of course, Google Translate, Italian, whatever ones I can translate intelligibly, I will, just to make it known that we are an international organization, and that we're not sort of in a linguistic ghetto of just English speaking tweets. And this was a campaign that I put together, again, on the spot. Again, because there's so many women saying great stuff, I decided to just highlight some of them. And I said, for each of them, about 6 women, many of the women we follow use their voice, intelligence, and outrage to counter attacks on the facts, our collective and individual personhood, our rights, and those of children. We thank you all. And here's one such woman, Marina from Italy. I think I also did Dr. Vierling once too, and some other women. Here's Laura. I retweeted her profile. Sometimes I retweeted that person, the woman's a post, a really interesting post. And I also like to retweet organizations, so amplifying women's voices, our followers' voices, but also organizations, because there's some really wonderful, wonderful, effective organizations on Twitter that that need to be known, and that's the point of retweeting those. Some of them also have events, but they're just also doing such great work. Okay, so I tend to not want to get into the sensationalization, the sort of shock factor things that go on in Twitter X. So I'll do that rarely, but sometimes it shocks me so much that sometimes I don't want to retweet it because it is so, for me, horrifying personally. But I do it occasionally, and this was one of them. A Genevieve Gluck posted, and she also put a real excellent, really clear context around this person's this person who, I don't know what to say about what he looks like anyway. And I personalized it myself because it was jaw-dropping to me as soon as I saw the photo. This was another one. Amparo told us about this at an activist meeting, and I think she runs the Spain Twitter, and it was like this guy, it was just so incredible, you know, the self-ID laws in Spain allowed this guy, and there was a whole story that went on after this, and I didn't follow it. One of the things I can't do is get deep into anything, but I just thought, oh, you know, come on, this guy thinks he's a woman, and yeah, whatever, you know, it's like no joke. And this one just came up recently. I thought this was this heading, and Redux has so many of these. A trans-identified male in Michigan is suing his ex-partner for the return of his preserved testicles, which he had kept in their shared fridge following his genital surgery. Brianna Kingsley, who identifies as a Muslim woman, is demanding $6,500 for the loss of D's nuts. I don't watch the videos usually. That's all I need, really, just to say is how more ridiculous can any of this get? I'm just really, gobsmacked. I don't know what to say or to think about this kind of stuff. And that's why I don't tweet it very much, because it feels like, one of those magazines that, just is all about just shocking people and making you go, oh my gosh, just to sell, newspapers, whatever those are called. So yeah. Oops, go here. Oops. And then I like to do so. There's really some fun things, some fun, cute things that aren't offensive, that aren't, outrageous. And this was a calendar that Kelly J put together. And I thought that was cute. A calendar of he's a man. And then this one I thought was funny too. I don't know how many other people got it, because you have to be old enough to have lived through cassette tapes and to understand that if the tape all falls out, it's a physical thing. I don't know. I'm probably talking to the choir, because I think a lot of us are old enough to remember cassette tapes. If the tape unreels, it's like your brain just spills out all over, you've got to put a pencil in to rewind it and hope that it works again. And I think the metaphor is pretty clear. It's like, people's brains just are sort of falling out. And if you put them back in, will these people actually be functional? That's how I interpret it anyway. I thought it was funny. And then finally, this one came from Australia. I forgot exactly who I liked it. So that's my presentation.
Now we're going to move to our next speaker, to María Binetti from Argentina. Maria is going to tell us about what's happening in Argentina, the new political context after the elections. And María Binetti is her own WDI country contact for Argentina, but she's also an academic and researcher in the field of philosophy and feminism. So Maria, delighted to have you here with us, and over to you.
Since last December, there is a new government in Argentina led by a new party and a new president who is actually an outsider. So nobody knows how things are going in the future. This represents a new context and challenges for us, for our agenda. And the good news is that the new government is on the other side of queer ideology and left populism. That is a good news for our agenda. Let's remember that Argentina is a leader in queer ideology. As you must know, I have tell you here in this platform, Argentina was the first country to allow a legal recognition of sex by self-declaration at any age, with no other requirement but a profound feelings. It was followed by Brazil and also by Ecuador and Bolivia, that before Argentina introduces the ID in their constitution. So the whole Latin American region is captured by queer ideology, operated by left populism with a postmodern narrative. The narrative, as you must know, about inclusion, expansion of rights, self-determination, and consent. This sort of postmodern populism was promoted in Latin America by UN mainly, and also by Inter-American Commission, and sponsored by Open Society Foundation and other philanthropic corporations. But mainly Open Society Foundation is the financier of Latin America populism and postmodern queer agenda. 4 years ago, Argentina had the first Ministry of Genders, in plural, all genders, many genders, which was an international milestone in terms of recognition of all genders identities, including women as a gender identity, of course. The Ministry of Gender was a huge platform for the implementation of transgender ideology and policies. The entire state was captured by this agenda. The government allocated an annual budget of 3.4% of the gross domestic product to set up gender identity agenda in every area of the state. I mean, science, education, culture, health, justice, science and technology, production, all area in the state was crossed by this agenda through programs, plans, reforms, resolution, etc., etc. So, replacing gender equality by genders identities, so only women provisions, spaces, resolution, measures, etc., became for all genders. And besides that, the government imposed officially an inclusive language that erased sexual difference. Sex education in schools turned into queer indoctrination and propaganda. Mass media and public university became ideological apparatus. Sexual work and surrogacy were normalized and promoted by the state. The legalization of abortion was a flag manipulated by queer establishment to replace the category of woman by the category of pregnant person. This is for me important because abortion law in Latin America is the gateway, to surrogacy. It is the flag of abortion law, and the green tape is using by queer establishment to introduce surrogacy after abortion. That was the case in Argentina, and that is why in the law we have pregnant people instead of women. Argentina has also 3 sexes. The third one is the unspecified, non-binary, and undeterminate one. The government destroyed the annual National Women Encounter that became the plurinational encounter of diversities. Fortunately, there were 3 main projects that the last government couldn't carry out. These 3 main projects are a bill for an integral care system that includes all genders, women between all genders, that would affect the maternal rights particularly. And the second project is the modification of the law for integral protection of women against violence. The government wanted to change women by genders, all genders. So the very good law we have against violence, women violence, could become violence against the genders in general. And the promotion and the regulation of surrogacy and sex. Well, these 3 main projects would have been a catastrophe for us, and likely the last government didn't have time or the opportunity to achieve them. So, despite the huge amount of money allocated for queer agenda, the last government ended with a decline in the wage gap between men and women, an increase in femicides, a femicide every 25 hours, an increase in women poverty. In Argentina, 50% of women are poor, and 60% of children are poor. The minimum salary is 85 American dollars. The average salary is 450 American dollars. And the basic retirement is 150 American dollars. All this with an inflation of 211% annually, the highest inflation in the world. So, in this context, we have a new government. It is understandable why we have a new government opposite to the last one. So, the new government comes from a new party, different from the traditional one, and a new president, which is an outsider. The new president calls himself an anarcho-liberal. For sure, he's a liberal in economics, but morally speaking, he's more conservative. So he belongs to this new right, which is against globalism, against corporate establishment, against progressive ideology, against UN agenda, and against queer agenda. It is more like Donald Trump style. I mean a new right because this is an interesting phenomenon for me, because this new rise is basically against the establishment. And traditionally, the left was anti-establishment and anti-corporation. But by now, the left is the cultural agenda of neoliberalism, of corporations. And this new right is under globalism and corporation. So this is a new phenomenon, a new scenery for me. And our president belongs to this new right. The president said that he will now support the 2030 UN agenda. Actually, the 2030 agenda must be the 2300 agenda, because UN said that it will take 3 centuries to achieve the gender equality. So particularly this establishment, for sure. So our president definitely wouldn't endorse this agenda, neither 2030, neither 2300. The new Argentina government also is against queer ideology and queer indoctrinations in schools and in general. They want an education based on scientific evidence, not on ideology. That is what they say. And the president is pro-life and against abortion. And concerning LGBTQ agenda, he says that you can do what you want, but without our money, without public money. So this is a traditional liberal in these issues, LGBT issues, but definitely against abortion. There are many conservatives in the new government, people with religious profile and links. But the good news is that from the first minute of the new government, the Ministry of All Genders ended. The inclusive language disappeared, and we are talking again of women and mothers instead of pregnant and menstruating people. The queer establishment suddenly ran out of money and platform. So this queer establishment, these ideologies, are performing the narrative of the extreme right, the neo-fascism, the loss of rights, the capitalism against the people because they are populist. And the people is the normative category of this left populism. They are talking of the persecution of feminism and so on and so on. This is the story that the queerness is spreading throughout the world. Some days ago, Sheila Jeffries shared us an article from The Guardian titled "All Feminists Are Under Attack in Argentina. Ultra-right threat in Milei's Argentina forces the writer into exile." This article was an interview with a journalist, Argentinian journalist, a writer called Luciana Pecker, who is a queer and trans activist. So actually, nobody attacked Pecker or any feminist. What happened is that they ran out of money and platform with the now government. So probably they are deciding to emigrate out from Argentina. The article intentionally misinforms to create the classic victim narrative of the woke agenda. A question that deserves a particular attention is the abortion and maternal care, because the president said that he's in favor of life and against abortion. 3 days ago, last Wednesday, a deputy from the ruling party submitted a bill to repeal abortion law. Even worse, the bill not only demands the repeal abortion law, but also the modification of the penal code to increase penalties for women who practice abortion. So this became a scandal for feminists. And immediately the Green Tide is the name of the abortion campaign in Argentina and in the world. They came from Argentina in the world. So immediately the Green Tide went on alert, but also immediately the government said that repealing abortion was not part of its agenda. So the government said that the bill didn't come from the government, that it was a deputy, so put distance from this issue. They know that there is no consensus to repeal abortion, even in the ruling party. So I think that abortion law is safe in Argentina, at least by now. But to compensate abortion, the government is increasing maternal and child public care and assistance. And this is another alert for feminism, at least for some feminists. Actually, the government submitted a bill to modify the so-called law of 1,000 days. The law of 1,000 days was approved along with abortion law. It is the twin of abortion law, but in the opposite direction to protect vulnerable maternities. So the new bill of this law proposes to eliminate the category of pregnant people. They talk of mothers and pregnant women, and recognizes the beginning of the human life from conception, which is well, the right and conservative conception of life, and strengthens healthcare for mother and children in a vulnerable situation. So the queer establishment immediately spread that the government doesn't recognize gender identities and uses the sexist term women and mothers. But the other side of reasonable feminists find problematic the term children for conception, because it is the consideration of the right conservatives. And also they find problematic the policy for an active detection and registration of pregnant women in vulnerable situations. They say that this sounds like a pregnant policy, that like a vulnerable pregnancy policy. Well, I guess this is debatable. I don't know, this is just a bill, no current policy, so we don't know yes, if it is a pregnancy policy or it is a very good care policy for vulnerable mothers. I don't know. But there is another interesting bill to modify the so-called Micaela law. The Micaela law in Argentina is a national law that establishes mandatory training on gender and violence against women for all people who work in public services. So this law was used by queer establishment to spread out genders in plural indoctrination to the public staff. This law was used for spread queer ideology everywhere. So the bill from the new government proposed no training in gender, but training on the issue of family violence and against women. So we have the change from gender and genders to family and women. Actually, the law was violence against women, so that keep the same. But you see, basically, we have not more the ideological apparatus from queer ideology. And another issue outside the government, but even in Argentina context, is the Pope call for an international ban on surrogacy, because the Pope is Argentinian, and according to some confidential conversations, he would be interested in Argentina to lead the international call for banning surrogacy. So some of us are exploring some contacts, some bridges with the Vatican and with other new government concerning the initiative for banning surrogacy. I guess that the more conservative context, like the current one in Argentina, could be favorable, particularly on surrogacy. Maybe, I don't know, could be. In conclusion, the new government is 2 months old, and it is premature to say much more about it. There is a lot of uncertainty in general, many debatable questions, many discussions and tensions. But the positive thing is that we are again women, and women and mothers is again a category in official and public language. And I'm not sure how far this government wants to go with or can go with anti-queer and anti-corporations policy, like Open Society Foundation and UN, and also the Inter-American Commission, which is absolutely captured by this ideology. There are many instances that continue to be in power of queer activists. For example, public universities. In my own university, which is the Public University of Buenos Aires, the queer establishment is still there on the control of the faculty. So it will be difficult to deal with this, but definitely I think that we are in a more positive context, challenging for our agenda, and I think more favorable. We have to see in the future, but by now, I guess it is a good news, the new government in Argentina.
We are now going to play a video of her intervention at the ICONS conference, which was very good. And the title is Are Women Used as a Tool to Signal Western Defeat? Dr. Suzanne Vierling is a clinical psychologist that draws parallels between the surrender of women's sports in the Western world, in this video, to waving the white flag in battle throughout history. Allowing men to invade female spaces leads to the sexual exploitation of women, as we are seeing in sports today. She will explain that men in particular have to understand that a tool of war has been deployed. The victorious army raised a flag on the woman of the conquered army to send a message. And that's what's happening in sports today. So I think that's, without further ado.
Kim found my one little African dance picture from years ago. I can't believe it. And Tom, you're welcome into my class anytime. Everybody is welcome. I just want to say how happy I am to be here, to speak with everyone, and to be around athletes, powerful athletes, winners, Olympians, national champions. And I have so much respect for icons and for us to gather. And I am not an athlete. I wanted to share the big picture analysis that has been brewing in my mind for a very long time, because I have been so shocked and saddened, obviously, everyone in the room, at how a basic explanation of biology, a basic explanation of what a woman is and what a man is, and how all of a sudden it's up for debate. I said, well, I heard a Harvard professor explain it. That should do it. It's Monday. Let's wrap up this foolishness by Tuesday. She explained it. Evolutionary biologist, been following Colin's work, and he explained it. All right, well, this should be taken care of. Well, obviously not. And so I like to pull back and take a look at big picture, look at perspective. I have a background in higher education and executive management, so my work is not just clinical. I've also chaired business departments, organizational leadership departments, and clinical psychology, where students go for licensure and all of that. So I have a mixed perspective. Uh-oh. How do I do this? Did I have it right? No. Oh, so I go that way. Okay. All right. So I feel as if we are in a period of colonization and commodification as women in what is the fourth industrial revolution. We've had three, and this is our fourth. And I'll explain as we get a little bit further in, but women are always impacted by economic shifts and warfare. The fourth industrial revolution represents a paradigm shift. We've all heard about AI, robotics, blockchain, technology, and all of these predictions, vast and wide, of job losses, always first to impact women, poor women first, and moving up the chain. And this new economy that we're in is characterized by a convergence of the physical, the digital, the tech world, and biological systems. And it's blurring the lines between human and machine, the post-human era. And of course, it's grounded in capitalism. In this rapidly evolving economy, we women are experiencing a powerful invasion of our rights, boundaries, inside of Western culture. That's where we are in America. We are part of Western culture. One of the things that's happening very quickly and all at the same time, it's a little bit depressing, is that we are in a way moved into a position of currency, where everything out of nowhere and just like that is up for sale and up for business practices, and moving women into insurance policies. Now in California, there's a push to put surrogacy into health insurance, and where people can buy eggs, buy a woman's womb, buy a woman's time. We are moving legislation through for legalizing prostitution, and of course that increases sex trafficking. So it's pretty significant. This is happening now, and there is law being moved through and bills being moved through. We have gender reassignment industry. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry, and it was mentioned that it's mostly girls, but we know that boys also, but mostly girls who feel that they are boys. And then we have biopharma and life sciences that tell us when we have a little baby that our body parts are medical waste, and then it gets used later in the multi-billion-dollar biopharma life sciences industries. Then finally, we have the poverty industrial complex, and I won't go into that, but poor women and children are big business. All of this happening at the same time. I wanted to share, and it's really sports that really brought my mind around to this, but we are experiencing colonization. Everything that we've been talking about so far is to say, this is our space, what's going on? There are 4 aspects of colonization that women are experiencing right now, and it is what an invading army would do. An invading army is going to come in and say, you're going to do what I tell you to do, because I'm coming into your space and into your world. Erase your cultural identity. Woman is a hate speech, and you will not use that term anymore. And you're going to use cisgender, vulva haver, breeder, bleeder, non-men, and all of these horrible terms. So I've stripped your language away from you, stripped your identity away from you. Now I'm going to appropriate your land, and that's a loss of women's spaces. So you'll land on the track field, you'll land in the locker room, you'll land in the swimming pool, you'll land in shelters, all of that. So movement restricted, even for little kids, excuse me. Obviously, sports, prisons, bathrooms, spas, DV shelter, sex assault shelter, psychiatric facilities. The rate of women being sexually assaulted in psychiatric facilities is through the roof. And it's so easy to get away with, because you just say, oh, I didn't do that. I think maybe she was delusional. I don't know what you're talking about. Okay. A third thing in terms of colonizing what an invading army would do is the dismantling of accustomed boundaries and laws. We are in a state of shock every day when we realize all of the things that are happening. The reduction of age of consent, I think it's down to 14. The K through 12 to gender industry pipeline, just right in front of our faces, kids just being radicalized into being confused about whether they were born in the wrong body or not. We have this massive, ridiculous movement to release child murderers, pedophiles, and criminals in general, even serial killers, calling it justice. We have on the street the law put in place to give drug addicts drugs to use right on the street. We see all the video clips of that, especially in San Francisco, right? Parents losing their rights in many different ways with laws on the books, bills being pushed through to block parents from their children in a variety of different ways. And we've had a long-standing K through 12, a long-standing foster care to sex trafficking, to prison, to probation pipeline. That's been in place for a long time for all impacting girls and women. And finally, like an invading army would come in and say, those laws don't count anymore. We have this Trojan horse, and not so much Trojan horse anymore, into Title IX, VAWA, federal and state contracts, talk of how the ERA is supposed to go. Well, okay. Why am I talking about this? Because in history, womanhood is impacted by warfare and shifting economies. The woman is always the last to know and the least prepared. So let's say an army is to come in and they enter the room. Women probably would figure out that day that an army is in and don't have any time to run to borders, run for safety or anything like that. So I'll talk about a few situations. And I'll talk about warfare in Afghanistan. We, the United States, went into Afghanistan for about 20 years, and we told the Afghan man that we were going to step over him and go to his women and tell them that they can go to school and they can do this and they can do that. We said that that's what those women can do. And then when the United States left Afghanistan, the Afghan man came back and said, you women, we're going to go back to the way things were because we're now back in charge. The symbol of victory and defeat is always on the woman. It's on the woman's body. In terms of economics, the Eastern European woman has been greatly impacted by the fall of the Berlin Wall. How many people are old enough to remember that, right? Remember, it was a big deal. We are going to spread democracy, and we're going to break this wall down, and it's going to be so good. But what nobody talks about is a powerful trafficking of Eastern European women to fill Western European brothels and to sell Eastern European women all over the world. Nobody talks about it, but it was a distinct consequence. Well, women do talk about it, but they get dismissed. Oh, you're ridiculous. But something that was supposed to be so great to launch democracy turned into a system that is still in place and unabated today. In terms of Bosnia, warfare and ethnic cleansing, a lot of women did not know what was happening in Bosnia. Women in Bosnia did not know what was happening. So here, all these men are fighting with each other, fussing with each other, and women are just, they hear about it on TV, but literally walking home from work only to have soldiers pull up next to them and say, get in, or just grab them and bring them in and take them to military barracks that had mattresses already lined up, ready to go, and mass rape was conducted under orders from the top. And they had absolutely no idea that it was coming. So another historical example of warfare. Now I'll talk about another example of shifting economies. We had, actually, it's much more than 700 years. It's actually quite a bit longer than that. But European witch hunts and witch hunts during the Roman Empire, where women were blamed for everything. They were blamed for farms, for crops not developing properly. They were blamed for famine. They were blamed for, like how we have COVID now, they would be blamed for things like that. And would be blamed for doing witchcraft or blamed for having power to make things happen like that, and would be burned at the stake. And early on would be burned in groups, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 women burned. And it just went unabated. And no one said, oh my gosh, we feel for these women, let's stop. No, there were other political forces that came in that brought about the end of this several hundred years, even several thousand years movement. And then finally in the United States, we had American women who for 339 years lived inside of a chattel slavery system. The consequence of relationships in Africa, between Africa, Berbers, Europeans, everybody playing games in Africa, the consequences for women were that they were brought here as a spoil of war and used for reproduction, sex slavery, the whole 9 yards. And I want to talk about language, referring back to the panel that was just up here. Women were called chattel, real estate, mortgage, bond, sex slave, everything but a woman. And so you see the times that endured, 339 years, 275 years, a couple of hundred years in South America and things like that. I wanted to just share how I woke up. Several things happened in my community, but I'll share this one. It was when I heard Congresswoman Cori Bush use the term black birthing body. I thought, you know, I don't know how, let me just take a deep breath on that one. Did she say black birthing body? Did she say that? Okay. And then AOC used the terms bleeder and menstruator. We all have heard all of this. And surrogacy advocates having the nerve to bring back the term breeder after the history of breeding in this country. Like, why would you do that? Regardless of who you're talking about. See, I'm not talking about race. I'm just saying to bring that term back and call a woman a breeder and a bleeder and a menstruator and a birthing body. I just thought, my God, this is something totally new here. I knew that we were in a new day, that we were in trouble when these Democrats, talk about Freudian slip, oh my goodness. When these terms came, when people started using these terms, but I'll be honest, I really thought, are those Democrat women that are saying, that are talking like this? Using dehumanizing language like this. So witch, chattel, breeder, bleeder, birthing body, sex slave, mortgage, bondwoman. When you hear yourself being renamed, it means you are being rehomed. And it's not a joke, and it's very real. It's not a little cute thing that's gonna go away. It's very serious. I had a little thing here. Okay. All right. So today in this new economy, everybody is, I call it opportunistic colonization, because everybody's thinking, how am I going to make money? How am I going to make this work for me? And unfortunately, we are downwind of that. So we are in the beginning stage of a correction in which Western culture is being drastically altered. And when women are raped, sexually exploited, forced into situations where you cannot protect or cover your body, then what that means is we have to understand that that is a tool of war that we are in the middle of. We are being used as a tool of war, and we are the victims in a tool of war. We don't have tanks and drones being deployed. We don't have military vehicles driving through, but it's ideological tanks going through people's minds to think that something like this is okay. So it's really a form of ideological warfare. We literally have women living in rape camps that are inside of prisons. They're being sexually assaulted, raped, and forced into acts of sadism. It's it's just absolutely horrifying. And it's legal and on the books right under our noses right now in America, in our Western culture. And what I want to say to men, let me take a drink of water. Men need to understand that rape of the female is used to humiliate male leadership. The victorious army raises a flag on the woman of the conquered army to send a message. During war and economic shifts, women become the spoil of war, the reward, the property, the change to currency. It means you've lost. Okay, just really briefly, you know, the psychological impact of rape and sexual exploitation. One of the things that I want to share that I notice that the pain that when women in sports can't hold it back and or women talking about sports and they cry, it's identical to how the women, incarcerated women sound. It's an identical pain, and it's not superficial, it's really deep within. Where's the Harvard professor? She was apologizing for tearing up. And it's identical to how the women that are in Chowchilla up in California sound. It's very deep. And part of the pain is you're forced to go in the locker room. You're forced to be in a room, in a cell with a man. You're forced to be in a locker room with someone like Leah Thomas. And everybody's walking around like it's no big deal. Coaches are walking around, everybody's walking around as if it's perfectly normal, okay? What is happening to our star athletes? I use Riley's picture, is Riley here? The flag of victory has been raised on her body to let women's sports, girls and women, our society at large, our Western culture, know that our community is being dismantled. So while we always remain in a state of shock, we need to, and easier said than done, stop being in a state of shock, readjust, and see that we have a whole nother thing happening over here that is really akin to warfare. I wanted to share with you incredible icon audience, incredible women, that the symbol of a healthy culture are strong women, strong, healthy women. The young, strong woman is a symbol of strength, vitality, and fertility, and it lets the community, tribe, ethnic group, nation know that they are a healthy, vibrant, and successful people where great genes will be passed on. It lets the tribe know you're good. If we allow women champions to be torn down in their status by an invader, and that can be discussed wherever the opportunistic invader is, and your accomplishments mocked, then this is exactly a repeat of history where the woman is sold as a spoil during either economic shifts or warfare or a combination of. Today, the leadership in Western women's sports is handing our women champions over to the victors as spoils of war, and this is unacceptable, and so that's why you're here, because we're fighting that. Absolutely. Oh, I didn't tell you who this was. So this is a princess, Briseis. She's a Trojan priestess and a Trojan princess and priestess. And Troy lost or was losing, and Achilles, a Greek warrior, obviously a warrior defeating Troy. And she was brought to him as a gift, brought to him as a spoil of war, brought to him to rape and defile, so that it could be told to Troy that they were losing, because they were able to bring down the best, most beautiful, most wonderful symbol of the health of Troy. And the woman is always used to tell the society if they are losing or winning. And then I put Shelley Ann Fraser Price down there because that's what it should look like, where everybody worships and loves their winning athletes, and just to preserve that at all costs. You know, if Shelley Ann Fraser Price wakes up late, the whole island knows about it. They'll be like, she's going to be fine. She just needed a little more rest, you know. She'll be fine. We'll give her some yam and some rice and peas and curry chicken and goat. She'll be fine. Everybody knows what she's doing, and she is just worship. She is just the princess, you know, like all of you are in this room. So I ask, is the Western man in an existential crisis? Has he succumbed to ideological warfare? Why are we here? Any man that allows a sacred woman of the temple to be desecrated is a conquered man. A man should die on his sword before stepping aside and saying, come on in. Come on in to our women and children. Come on in. Are all of these men that are selling women athletes out okay with leaving this legacy for their own daughters and granddaughters, for their granddaughters to lower their eyes in submission and submit to men coming into their spaces? Why would they do this, and how do they think it's okay, and are they even thinking in the long term? Why would you do this? In matters of warfare, people do switch sides to survive. Quote, I want to be on the winning team, you know. Okay. The Western man's blind spot is ideological subversion or ideological invasion. The Western man is known for intelligence, the establishment of Western civilization, engineering, technology, building infrastructure, science, medicine, law and order, and military strength. And the assumption is that he cannot be conquered militaristically. It's true, we have the strongest military. But there's a blind spot ignoring what can happen to the mind, how ideology can take over and be just as strong and powerful as a physical army. And the impact is that ideology is tearing our culture down. The Western man today is openly mocking, is being openly mocked as cracks appear that welcome our colonization and welcome female colonization. He is being told, we are doing this to your woman and children right in front of your face. What are you going to do? And the call to action is, we are in a quiet coup d'etat, and it's time to act. We need men and women to join together. This isn't just a woman's issue, even though obviously it's salient and important because women are the ones that are feeling the pain. But this is a cultural issue affecting all of us. Women are to be protected, secured, held sacred, not dismantled, not commodified, not broken up into little pieces with little dollar signs on our parts. Do not be the conquered man. Do not be the conquered woman. Thank you.
Oh, wow. Wow, okay.